that. So part of what you've been doing with your context exercises is stuff that requires some more research potentially for you all if you want to dig deeper into the context and the big picture stuff. But the other reason that research is another piece that we have to look at is because last time we started talking about your customers and your potential customers and your individual customers and your business customers, and you started thinking about competition, and some of you I know started to do some research, and that was good. But one of the things that we're gonna go into a little bit today is to dig into why we need to actually figure out more about who our customers are and what they want and who they are. So how many of you all know and are using Google Analytics? Okay, some of you are. So I'm going to go ahead and share, don't tell anybody you're seeing this. This is the Berea College Crafts website, Google Analytics account here. And I'm pulling it up just to show for the rest of you, and for those of you who are already on, I'm hoping you're using this data or thinking about this kind of data that you may have not realized was under the hood of Google Analytics. So when you think about Google Analytics, most of us think about how many people are coming to our website. And that's about as deep as we're imagining, is that how many people are coming, how long are they staying, what pages are they going to, are all things that you can look at. But one of the things that they do for you that maybe you don't realize is that they actually know who is coming. And of course they do, right? Because we all have little machines and they have addresses, and so there's information about what that machine looks at, does, and reveals, because we all reveal things without thinking about it, about who we are when we're surfing around on the internet. So bear with the challenge of me because I'm like mousing from here but on there. But what I'm going to show you is so the demographics of the Crafts website. So think about who you think about when you think about Berea College Crafts. You might imagine that, yes, there's a lot more women. So you can see here that we know that 68.6% of our visitors are women, only 31 are men. We can see the ages of people who are going to our websites, which look at this, like 22%, 50% of our website is 55 and older. That's somewhat troubling.
Which website is this? Is this City of Berea?
No, this is Berea College Crafts.
Berea College Crafts.
So this is our online sales source for Berea College Crafts. So this is how we sell anything that isn't at the Log House or at the visitor center. So we have an online presence. And we have pretty darn good traffic, actually, believe it or not. But what's interesting is there's more but wait, there's more. Come on, little mouse. We get to know what these people do and like. Look at this. We can tell that the people who are on our website, who are using it, are food and dining cooking enthusiasts. We can tell that they also are media and entertainment book lovers. They are into politics, which is sort of interesting. They also are thinking about banking and finance because they're 55 and older. But lifestyles, hobbies, art and theater, travel, home decor, home decor, home decor. So when you see that, one of the things that Berea College Crafts has to think about is, gosh, if we were to do marketing to these people who are coming to our website, it would make sense for us to be focusing on our products that have something to do with food, because we know that our people are cooks. So gosh, if we are gonna post pictures of our cutting boards and our cooling racks, that's probably gonna attract them just as much as our products.
Do you know if they do any sort of tracking of conversion rates of
Um,
following the session through to the?
we do. I'm not gonna share that with you because I would feel guilty. It's below the fold. But yes, so the way that Craft's website is set up, and any of you who are actually selling anything online, all you have to do is, it's very easy to plug in your Google codes and get all of your pages attached. So that you can then, if you're using an online sales tool, so we have Lightspeed is the system that we're using. So it's all integrated, so we can tell how long people are on the site and when they purchase, and what they purchase, and how we can watch the path of how they got in, how they made it to the product, how long they stayed, how many other products they looked at. All of that is available because of Google Analytics.
Does Google, or are there tools similar to this, for people who do not yet have websites? Like this is the traffic for you, but is there a way to, classify what you are doing in a way and then look at the more generalized?
Yes, data.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna show you next. So this is very specific. This is for if you've got a website up and there are things that you wanna know. Now, even if you're not selling anything, this is actually important for you and if you're not looking at this, you're missing out potentially on thinking about how you're gonna talk with your people and finding crossover with areas of interest that you may not have realized. Like, this was a surprise. These whole top categories were a surprise to us. This website has been live under this URL now for just over a year, and there's way more data than there was last year when we were showing this data. So it's clear that Google is learning, and you can tell that the traffic is helping us learn more about what our customers actually are doing who are showing up.
How much does it cost?
It's free. It's completely free. Totally free.
Really?
Totally free. Not a charge, not a fee. No fees.
Because they're collecting data.
Because they're collecting data. So Google does this. The reality is this data, it's happening whether we like it or not, so you might as well access this, particularly when it's free. Facebook has this stuff too. Facebook Insights are equally deep. If any of you have used Facebook at all to promote an event or to promote an experience, you know that you can target, if you do any sort of Facebook ads, which then of course do cost money, but you can target exactly who you want to meet. So if you all have figured out, I want to sell my new clothing to women between 35 and 65 in this zip code, you can hone down for that and know that when you buy that ad, that's who on Facebook is getting your ad, flashing up on the side of your page. So it's really powerful stuff that can help you learn more about who you already have in your circle. So this is not necessarily about growth, it's about who's in your circle, except for if we look at geography, one of the things that's super cool is you can also tell where people are from.
Not Wyoming is the answer.
Not Wyoming, but you can tell Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
You can tell exactly where. Sorry, if I can pull, oops, what did I do? Nothing.
Made it smaller.
So is that big?
There we go. So
Oh, yeah.
you can dig down deeper and deeper to figure out, look, I know exactly how many people in Berea were on our website in the last week, 85.
70 of which were bad.
No, this is no longer a part of my world. I've had to move on. There was help last year, this year not so much. But so this is, if you log your site, whatever your websites are, make sure that you have Google, go ahead and you can figure it out. It's so easy to go to Google Analytics on Google and click on Google Analytics and it'll tell you exactly how to get your little code and where to put it on your website. If you have a website manager and it's not you, just tell them you want that to authenticate your Google Analytics code and you'll start getting this data. So you can share it with whomever you want. There are nice visualization tools so that you can actually pull out a report that gives you meaningful stuff. So this, let me pull up, man, I wish I was better at this.
So when I signed up for Google My Business, is that what? is
That's
that-
different, but you can use that account to attach to your Google Analytics.
Okay.
So it's all, Google, it's like all one big spider webby spaghetti monster mess.
Google My Business is really about controlling what shows up when someone searches for your business on Google. Hours, location, contact information. The analytics is an analysis of how consumers are interacting with your website.
So this, I think
So
this
I
is
have to
only a
Google
week
Google
of data,
Analytics and find out.
but this is important for us as well. And this, again, will be important for you, is that look at all these states who are fairly significantly going to our website. So if we're imagining doing a marketing campaign, we might want to actually target California with something that is California focused. But we wouldn't have known that if we hadn't bothered to look at this and discover like, oh, after Kentucky, you would think that our next state would be like Ohio or Tennessee, something nearby. But there's a whole lot more people in California.
Georgia is pretty
So-
surprising to me.
Georgia, you would not believe how many people show up in our facility from Georgia. It's because of I-75.
It's a straight shot.
It's
from
a straight
Atlanta,
shot. Yep, straight shot up. So Georgia, we get a ton of course, Ohio, New York's, a big, again, population centers. These are sort of anomalies, but we forget about that because we live here and we're like, well, why would they ever pay attention to us? Well, there are just so many people there that the
Somebody
chances of them paying attention to us are better. So, but it's interesting to look at, you can totally see the I-75 corridor there on that list. So this is really powerful, yes?
Can we see the demographics?
We already did those.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You mean the old people?
No, I'm curious. Is it old people?
Yeah,
And by old, I mean anyone over 21.
that's of course what you mean.
Nice save.
Careful now how you talk about these age groups.
Exactly. So, yes,
What's the 31% male? Wow.
And it's interesting, you were saying that might be something that would concern you. But I don't necessarily think it does because everyone goes through those age groups. So if you can consistently, if those are just age groups that you consistently get, people
except
are going
for one
to
thing,
turn into, however, if it's
which is the
only
baby boomers, so the size of that market
that's true.
is
Yeah.
going to be different a generation behind. So it's not as big,
That's
which
true.
means you have to think about, well, how much more do I have to dig in earlier in order to keep that market share up?
That's interesting.
I wonder too, like how the male to female ratio changes around times of year where it's not gift buying season. Like,
Oh, that's interesting.
It doesn't.
it doesn't.
That's like
I was gonna be
Yeah,
really,
still fine.
it really doesn't.
Okay.
This one appears to be very consistent for us throughout the year. It might, the male, I don't think I've ever seen it, this is as high as it gets. I don't think I've seen it any higher than that, really. And,
The other thing, when I see information like this, what I often question is, if I could look at it for a product, a SKU, and a price point, how much of that, like don't be alarmed that their largest percentage of customers are 65 plus. if what they're doing is selling items that only someone in that age range can afford.
Right,
So
right.
18 to 24 probably isn't going to be spending money on $1,200 kitchen sets
Or a $300 Skittles game.
Yeah.
That is an heirloom for the family. You know, that's not your market down here. It is your market up in here, for sure. But the market, we have a new product this year that are Christmas colored Skittles pins. Are you guys familiar with the Skittles game?
Yeah.
So I was not familiar with the Skittles game until moving to Berea, but we sell more than 100 of those a year, and they're like the biggest seller for Berea College Crafts, and they're not inexpensive. They're, you know, $250 or something like that, and then if you want to buy a stand, it's another $90. So it's a pretty significant investment. So we decided, well, why don't we make the pins that are in the game different colors so that you could buy accessories for your Skittles game, because we've got all these people who have Skittles games
Yeah.
that are sitting in a closet, not being used, being forgotten about. Well, what if we, you know, make a Berea College colored set so that you're celebrating Berea College and you're an alumni, so that you aren't then making another $250 investment, but a younger group who's just inherited the Skittles game from their grandparents are like, well, I'll get new pins because I can afford $80 instead of $250. So we wouldn't have realized a lot of those pieces, though, if we hadn't started to look at this data and realized, oh, look, we thought that it was, and this is not us in the room, but we do, let's be honest, get a lot of phone calls from little old ladies who want to buy Berea College crafts. You know, that is part of our market. There's no question about it. It's also no question that they will not be around forever. So figuring out how to keep this generation still invested in the quality and the products is pretty key. So this is one tool, but now I'm going to share with you another tool. So Claritas. This is free or paid, depending on how you want to deal with it. None of you need to pay for this stuff. Don't worry about it. But I want to tell you about this. And by the way, the links to all of these are on the website. It's all there for you, so you don't have to remember what these are. But so these are people who just collect data. They collect market segment data, and they've tried to group people and describe them in groups so that we can figure out how to talk to people. So remember all the things we talked about last time, the psychographics and the behaviors and the demographics? Well, they've started making groups so that you could say that you want to target the networked neighbors. Okay, I'm going to click on the networked neighbors. These are people who are suburban, they are wealthy, they are millionaires. They have the highest household technology. Their age range is 35 to 54, mostly with kids, mostly own their homes.
They're Acura, shops at Banana Republic.
Yeah, eats at Chipotle, shops at Banana Republic, plays tennis, flies United, uses Yelp, and listens to adult contemporary. So this starts to get you thinking about, oh, that's a segment. I know enough about these people that I could target a message because I know more about what they do, how they're spending their time, and where they live in a meaningful way. So this is kind of a cool little tool, not to like go down the rabbit hole of too deeply, but we can do this. So here's Berea. Here's our zip code. We know that we have Dish Country. Rural families in Dish Country spend the largest share of their entertainment dollars on a single product, satellite television.
That's interesting.
So, hang on, I'm going to scroll down. They are only, however, 1.33% of the U.S. households. Their median household income is $42,500. they love satellite TV. They rent movies from Redbox. They purchase cell phone at Walmart. They read hunting magazines. They watch children's programs on demand. They're rural, mid-scale, high-tech, 25 to 44. So learning that that's one of our biggest segments that we serve is really important to all of your plans. Because understanding, I'm gonna go back, don't forget you can do this too, this is free. Just go to this website and type in our zip code, and you can see all of these and look at them again. So you've got the family dishes, which is lower middle-aged family mix, Antennaland, dial-up duos, and last to adopt. So here's our population. This is, information that we need to have. Here's our ethnicity. There's more. Wait for it. Here's our income. And there's one more that scrolls through. And here's our household composition of who's living in our households. Are there kids? Are they grandparents who are housing their kids, et cetera? So all of this type of data is easy to find. I want to draw your attention as well, though, to this whole concept of segmenting. So this is starting to take who you're imagining your customers are and trying to group them into ways that allows you to talk with a whole group of people with a similar message. You're trying to figure out how to talk with folks and maximize your words and your images and your time and your effort as well as you can. HubSpot is a super cool website. This is not a pitch for you to purchase HubSpot land. They are a marketing formula system, blah, blah, blah. But they have a ton of educational resources on their website, so it's totally worthwhile just to get sort of an overview of how to think about market segmentation, how much you want to get into it, and also they have a great one on how to use Google Insights and Google Trends. Because not only do you have all that Google Analytics data, but you also have Google who actually analyzes itself. So not your website, but here's your question, Joe, is what are the trends? What are the different ways that I can get access to what I might expect to have happen in my community? Well, the Claritas data certainly gets you down that road. Come on. Wait, that click stopped it. Let's see what I have. Oh, so I pulled up the word. You can search on any keyword and it will pull up trends for searches on that word, and then map those sorts of searches. So what I had done was pull in, oops, I went the wrong way. So the word craftsman, and I'm sorry that I had to put in craftsman, but crafts doesn't compute as well. So you can see, you start to see these trends. Come on, little map and internet.
Now, is that tools or is that actual craftsman?
I don't know. But it is searches that involve that phrase. So there are some key spots. If you look through it, you can tell that there is a nice big blob near us that includes us. But there's also, stuff all over the place that, again, depending on what it is that we're doing, it's a way to think about how we capture nearby markets and people who are interested in the things that we are making, doing, designing. So this is not the greatest example because I'm clearly getting a lot of spinning here for that to look
I'm
good.
just out of curiosity, could you do it for craftsman with an EN and see how much it changes?
Let's do it.
Because I'm wondering if, yeah. Oh, interesting.
Wah, wah. There's only one man who's doing the crafts. Here, let's do, I feel like I've done this and it didn't take.
How about artists?
Let's do that one.
Really
So it's about the
curious about
same.
YouTube
It pulled up
lists
Craftsman
where
again.
People have to do DIY like home projects. So the tools.
So it also depends on whether people, right, Craftsman as a company could also be part of that. Let's do
Anything like
artist.
DIY or.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask a really stupid question, but.
Yeah, there aren't any.
So like we've just put an online store on it, right?
Uh-huh,
And I would really like for people who are interested in what we have to sell to know about the online store.
yeah.
So can I go to one of these things and somehow put in information that says, email these people, and it'll email all those people? I mean, how do I get?
Wait, say that
access-
again.
How do I, as an individual nonprofit person, get access to the emails of the people who are in my segment, my market segment?
So then you're starting to pay for that. So somebody will want to sell you those names. So you don't necessarily want, I don't know that you want those email addresses. That might be too broad for what you're trying to do. But on Facebook, you all are on Facebook,
Yeah.
you could use that target market with a question, a contest. If you like us and share this, then you get them, and you then have a path to communicate with them for a longer term with something that relates back to your website and lets them know that there are these products. So it could be a contest that says, you can win a trowel if you like our Facebook page and share this with 10 friends. And then you gain folks, and when you determine that ad and you design that campaign, you can define the demographics. So you could pick, I wanna go, figure out how you want to define your segment. Facebook will let you define it very deeply.
Oh, good.
So you can get really specific. May not be as lucrative as you would want it to be, because the tighter you get, you're not gonna get you're gonna be like, dang, I just spent $5, but I only got 3 people. But you got your 3 people. So you'll have to play with that a little bit in order to figure out what's gonna work for you.
So all these other things, Google and Clarice and HubSpot, are just for us to learn about marketing segments and.
And to use them. I mean, there's data there that says who lives in Berea.
Yeah.
So you now have some keywords and some hobbies that allow you to think about, how do you want to talk with those people, and do you not want to talk with those people? Are those your market?
And then you talk
Is
to
that
them
who you
on
want? And then go to Facebook, because that's one of your avenues.
Or,
or-
Google AdWords. Google has their own
Yes,
advertising
yeah.
product that I'm sure integrates very well with Google Analytics. and
Yes.
those kinds of
It totally does. Same concept. Meg, were you going to ask something?
Maybe just gets its information about who lives in Berea from what they see from online activity?
They
Or-
collect, so
Or does it
Claritas.
exclude everybody who's not on the internet is what I'm
No,
asking?
no, the Claritas data, they have 4 different products, and you can click on each of them to figure out what data you want access to. But they're compiling data from all over the place in order to come up with those segments and help you understand what the community is. So they're analyzing internet activity, but they're also doing census tract data.
Okay.
So this is another place that you may want to go for some of this deeper information about who is here and who your market is. So there is so much data here. You could spend easily half a day in a wormhole that would be fascinating, depending on what you want to look at. I just happened to pull up rural because I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder what they have. And this is pretty wild. They just start going, let's see if I can do it. How do they define rural? I mean, this is interesting. In 2010, 60 million people, but only 19% of the population lived in rural areas. Sorry. Oh wait, no, here's the rural facts that were really interesting we are clearly, by the way, in the hotbed of rurality, not a surprise to us, but sorry, I think we went too far. Oh no, this is good enough. 10% of the total population in the West live in rural areas. Nearly half of all the people living in rural areas are in the South region, 28 million people. So even though this is rural, the percentage of people is so tiny in comparison. Like, this is a huge block of people. And it maybe helps you imagine when you hear those numbers why for air it was actually important for us to move inland, because from the Mississippi River over, like, everybody lives here. 60% of our population lives east of the Mississippi. So it's interesting how the country rolls out. So Census Tract has a lot of different ways to break up data, as simple as you can put in your zip code and figure out the good demographics that we talked about. So what's the median income? What do households look like? Who is living there? What's the education level? Solid, basic demographic stuff is all easily found through the Census Bureau. It's all free. They do a good job of segmenting, and so once you dig in and you decide what you're trying to learn, this is a good place to go. Now, don't forget though, that like this data sounds really awesome, but it also can be a big hole. So this is not a place where you want to like lose your minds and think, oh my gosh, if I don't learn more, I'm not gonna know how to figure out who my people are. This is like, there are people who spend their lives looking at this data, and it's easy to see why, because it's kind of fun and interesting to start to dig down and understand where we are, but it also can just take up your time in a way that probably isn't a good use. So I'm not saying not to do it, because getting comfortable with it is important, and remembering that you've got a place to go back to if you're like, gosh, I feel like I'm missing something here. This is a good way to go back, but not to obsess. So Census Bureau is good stuff. Here's the basic main census thing, and you can tell, I mean, it's really easy to use, so you're not gonna have any problems finding this stuff. I wanna tell you about IBIS World. Again, this is all linked for you, so you don't have to lose any of this. IBIS World does really interesting deep market analysis at the big picture back row level. So they're gonna look at an industry. Here is arts, entertainment, and recreation in the US. So this is not for Madison County, Kentucky. This is for the country. And they do these industry reports every year though, so you can tell whether the forecast is for that industry to grow. You can see how they're defining it, and hilariously, how they defined arts, entertainment, and recreation in the US is pretty pathetic, I would say.
Lotteries.
You know, it's like lotteries are in this, yeah. But you know, there's museums, but they count a lot of things. So you've got, you're competing with amusement parks, lotteries, museums, performers and creative artists. So there's a report just on this. This is all, again, free. So you can go and click on this and start to learn where you think things fit. Musical groups, national parks, but crafts, I will say this, doesn't show up on this stuff. It is not a big enough chunk even of the art market for it as a segment to show up in these kinds of reports. So you have to be broader when you're thinking about that. And then I just wanted to show you this because this is how good messaging strangely can happen in weird and funny ways. So Adweek is big national, you know, like they're the ad people. So they have this thing, Print Isn't Dead. These 7, this just came out today. These, come on. Sometimes I feel so stupid with my mouse. How do I make it scroll?
Does it have 2-finger scroll? Can you use 2 fingers and scroll down?
Yes, thank you. I never use this mouse. I don't use the laptop. I have it plugged in. So, so these are print campaigns that got released this year, and there's 7 of them, and you know, they're like, ha ha ha, flame broiled, Burger King, get it? You know, that's really funny. Flame grilled since 1954.
Not so funny in California.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
right, not so funny, period, but you
Watch
know,
out for them, right?
this is what they're doing, is they're trying to find, so they've got LL Bean, Wings One, Toyota, but hold on, I promise I'm getting to something. So Kentucky for Kentucky, have you seen this one?
Yeah.
So, this was the campaign, this was the campaign, but we made the national news, and there's Rebecca and Brett, who many of us know, and this campaign was in the Oxford magazine, and here's what it says here. We know it's your, not your. We just figured that a typo would be the best way for our ad to stand out in a